Thank you.
It's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
These things we talk about.
I don't need no TV. I can go by Beverly when I need company. But I got me good tea. I can skin them bright and sweet. But I think that they're ready here, so that the man could eat. But if rice gone up, fish gone up, fruit gone up, flour gone up, meal gone up, and meat gone up. How can you tell me that? Me salary cut back. You say when labor leads, Bajans succeed. Well, here we now. This the people creed. Hello! Boy, hey! When labor leads, Bajans bleed. When labor leads, we on we knees. When me a lead, we don't believe. Same old talk, same old scene. When labor leads, Bajans bleed. When labor leads, no room to breathe. When me a lead, we can't achieve. Tell them no, the people grieve. Say progress, but who it feed? Promise sweet, but none succeed. Small man strain can't meet he need. Tell me again who really lead. Bills climb high, hope get lean. Talk sound good, but life still mean. Every day we toil and dream, still waiting on that brighter gleam. When labor leaves, Bajans bleed. When labor leaves, we on we knees. When me a lead, we don't believe. Same old talk, same old scene. When labor leads, Bajans bleed. When labor leads, no room to breathe. When me a lead, we can't achieve. Tell them now the people grieve. Forward, forward, but who we
Good, Good evening, Barbados. I am Malissa Howard, and this is DLP TV. Tonight, we continue our series, When Labor Leads, Bajans Bleed. For 2 hours, we will examine the real cost of the government's failures, the decisions, the mismanagement, and the neglect that force ordinary Bajans to make impossible choices. Tonight, we will name failures, demand answers, and show how these policies are bleeding families, businesses, and communities dry. In essence, when labor leads, Bajans bleed. Or more correctly stated, when the Barbados Labour Party leads, Bajans bleed. Joining me tonight are panelists who will bring insight, first-hand knowledge, and clarity as we dig into the crisis affecting our country. Joining me tonight, to my right, I have Mr. Damian Fanas, attorney at law. Welcome, Damian.
Welcome. Thank you, Melissa. Good night, DLP TV. Nice to be amongst you once again, family.
Sorry, we're going to take a break right now so we can get the video footage up for you guys. We apologize for the disruption. You got it off, the video off.
Mic's still on, so.
Good night, viewers. Once again, we apologize for the disruption, but we are back. Joining me tonight is to my right is Mr. Damien Fanas, attorney at law. Damien, welcome to the show.
Hi, good night, DLP TV. It's nice to be amongst family again.
And to Damien's right, we have Miss Felicia Dujon, the spokesperson for education.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening to our DLP and our viewers as well. Good evening.
To Felicia's right, we have Mr. David Walrond, the candidate for St. George North.
Good evening, everyone. I'm glad to be here with you tonight. I hope that we have an informative show tonight for you.
All right, let's get straight to the truth. Barbadians are struggling to pay bills, buy groceries, and keep the lights on. Families are skipping meals. Seniors are forced to choose between medication and electricity. Middle class savings are disappearing. Small businesses are failing. This is not inevitable. This is a result of government mismanagement. So, guys, tell me, what are you hearing in your communities? Starting with David.
Well, when we talk about families skipping meals and those kind of statements, have borne out real to me as I canvass St. George North and meeting families who are crying out. The Bajans are literally crying out. People are having difficulties putting meals on the table. People are having difficulties paying bills.
Mm-hmm.
So the reality is that Bajans are having a hard time surviving this present economic situation that is occurring in Barbados as we speak.
Mm-hmm. Felicia.
Well, I believe that there's something that we need to look at in terms of the policies and how we look at it in reality. So the government is telling us one thing, but the reality on the ground is quite different. We're seeing that families are struggling, especially women, because women have always been the head of households in Barbados and most Caribbean countries. And we're seeing that women have also been the caretakers, not also of the families, but also the elderly.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing that the struggle is real for them. And the reality is that even the basket of goods is not fulfilling the mandate of this government. And I believe that at some point the government will have to reconsider, perhaps either to increase the basket of goods, the items that are being provided to families, but a serious intervention is required because we're seeing what is happening. So the policy development is not touching the life of the basic citizens. And I think this is what we need to look at in terms of how has it affected families. We're not seeing really an increase in salaries, even though that we have minimum wage. But when you go to the supermarket, you can actually see what people are taking and what they're leaving back. If you go to the supermarket, you'll see to the entrance of the supermarket where people have left back basic goods like bread, milk, butter, things that they need for their family. And I think it's time that the government recognizes that policy development is not really touching the average life of our citizens, especially women and women households.
All right, Damien.
The reality is that there is a socioeconomic gap that's been perpetuated by this government.
Mm-hmm.
There is a wealth divide, basically a chasm. There is an erosion of the middle class, and now basically what you're seeing are those persons who have a lot, and then those persons who have very little.
Mm-hmm.
And those persons who have very little seems to be growing in this country. So now the government now has to ask itself, is what they're doing working? Obviously it isn't, because they seem to be, I guess, guiding their policies towards, I guess, the very few who can afford. And those who cannot afford now are finding themselves being priced out of even basic needs. And even if you wanted to say step out and maybe borrow, maybe start a business, maybe expand your home or send your children overseas to go and study, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you cannot do those things that you need, what about food? So then if you can't do that, then basically then you're struggling to eat. So then if you have to focus all of your money now on just basically trying to get a meal and fill your stomachs, then you know that basically then that your income is not stretching as far as it needs to go. And this government needs to reassess itself. And when they project Barbados as someone who is punching above its weight, it's punching above its weight all right. but it's not punching above its weight that affects those individuals that really need to put money in their pocket. And this government has to reassess their policies in that regard.
Right. You mentioned businesses, and today we heard reports of a long-standing furniture company that closed down. And then we heard other reports of businesses in Broad Street that are closed.
Mhm.
So who would you say is responsible for allowing these things to happen? David.
Who is responsible? You see, the current economic climate has to be the catalyst that has created the situation where businesses find it hard to survive. Now, if you have a household and you are basically, you're basically living paycheck to paycheck. You know, there are many households in Barbados that can't even afford a doctor visit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people are leaving out things like dental visits and stuff like that. Their basic health, these are being sacrificed
Mm-hmm.
just to eat. So the reality is that if the family unit is not surviving, it is the family unit who feeds the business. The business depends on the average Joe to come in and spend money. Now, if the family does not have the wherewithal to go into the business place and spend money,
Mm-hmm.
then who feeds the business that cannot feed themselves? Then the business has to suffer. So in reality, it's a continuum. The reality is that business people depend on the average person to survive. The reason businesses aren't surviving in Barbados or cannot survive, the reason businesses are struggling in Barbados is because the average Joe is struggling. So it's a continuum. As long as the average Joe struggles, businesses will continue to struggle.
All right, Damien, who would you say is responsible for this situation?
Well, you can only point the figures at the government. You know, there's a saying amongst presidents in the United States: the buck stops with me,
Mm-hmm.
which means that the leader is who has to take responsibility of everything that goes on in the country. Right now, there's a current situation going on in the United States where a particular leader, he wants to pass off blame to everybody else, and it seems to be mirroring here in this country,
Mm-hmm.
where that this government doesn't seem to be want to hold the culpability in their hand for everything that is actually happening in this country right now. And people need to understand that one of your true indicators that your country is not doing well socioeconomically is crime. So if cost of living is beating you down, then obviously crime will shoot up.
Mm-hmm.
So this government has to take responsibility and look themselves in the mirror and ask themselves, are our policies working? You can see on the ground that it is not.
All right, Felicia, who would you say is responsible?
That's an interesting question. I think one of the things that we need to look at is the poverty assessment, the most recent one, and what it says about various communities in Barbados, because what it will also show is how households are even surviving this economic downturn. We've seen, and let's not forget, with what we saw today with Standard closing down, we have to recognize that the impact of the COVID pandemics has continued to affect lives and families and businesses. There haven't been much support from the government to provide that kind of intervention for families or companies. So what we're seeing here is a ripple effect, and it will continue because the government has not put any kind of strategic interventions for not only families but also for businesses. And so businesses, I find at this point, coming to the public and informing the public that these are our realities.
Mm-hmm.
Though the governor of central bank said something entirely different with all his quotations and all his so-called research, the reality on the ground is that businesses are struggling, as Comrade has said. Business is struggling because families are struggling. And this is what we call the regressive cycle. We're seeing that because families are struggling, businesses, they don't have the spending, the economic expenditure that they used to have before. And so what we're seeing, people are spending, it's not like they're spending less because there's not much to spend. And because they're not spending much, companies are failing to provide the economic flourishing that we would have had. So the reality is that the government has not done much to sustain the economic kind of activity that we would expect after, the COVID pandemic. And this is a government that boasts that they have done so well in tourism and agriculture and everything else. But at the same time, we're not seeing the kinds of intervention that is needed, and we're not seeing the kind of growth. On the ground, it sends a different message. The average citizen knows that we are basically trying to survive. And we see it not only in terms of families, but most importantly, the elderly and the most vulnerable in our societies, in particular the youth.
Right, Damien, would you say that promises are delivered or just excuses?
Listen to me. I think I'll be very frank with you. This government gaslights the Barbadian people. They tell them, "Oh, we've made promises and we've kept them." I have not seen one promise kept in regards to their covenant of hope, which now we can probably refer to as the covenant of despair. We've not seen anything in regards to the promises kept made in their 2018 manifesto or their 2022 manifesto. And it behooves me. It behooves me too to hear that, or to see or read in my paper, to open my nation and see particular ministers, especially one from St. Michael's South Central, who says that we as a government, we care and we listen. You get me? That is one of the main promises that they made, that we would listen and consult with the people before we make any form of decision or policy in regards to how your life will be affected from our legislation or any other, I guess, decision that we make. They don't even keep that. So in regards to saying that they have kept promises, they have not. They promised that Barbadians will be safe, crime is up. They promised that they would address cost of living is up. They said that they would ensure that everybody has equal employment and an opportunity to earn. They've not even delivered on that, because underemployment is now a thing because of the botched rolled out increase in minimum wage, which should have at least been followed by some form of assessment on how to address cost of living, because we all know that if salaries goes up, more than likely prices will go up. But they didn't even take the time to at least find a way to address cost of living first before they implement a rise in salaries. So no, this government has not kept its promises. They've not kept their promises to the young people, they've not kept their promises to the elderly, and they've not kept their promises on the whole. So I cannot say that it's promises kept, promises delivered. It's more like promises made, promises broken.
All right, let me just first apologize for the lateness of Miss Domry Armstrong, the spokesperson for education and the candidate for St. Michael Nerf. She'd had water issues, so she was running a bit late, but she is with us right now. So just let us welcome Miss Domry Armstrong to the show, Dr. Domry Armstrong to the show. Welcome, Don.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. There was also an accident on the highway as well. Our tanker ran into the back of a Swift.
Oh dear.
Yeah, right. Pretty bizarre. Nonetheless, please accept my apologies. But a very concerning discussion, because I feel as if we've covered this extensively and still the government hasn't done anything to bring an ease to the plate of the average Barbadian household. And when we say the average Barbadian household, we speak to just everybody trying to get by, really. We say slowly but surely the middle class is evaporating at this point because of the fact that not very many people have the spending power that one would have had in between 2008 to 2018. And I've often said, just as Felicia is the spokesperson for education, that I think our school-age children are feeling it the most. Because if their parents aren't able to provide for themselves, really, how is this impacting the children within our communities as it stands? And, as education was something that has, and I would hope that it still continues to be, a main vehicle of social mobility, I don't know what the future looks like for our children, who are unable to go to school and learn because their stomachs are empty, because their parents aren't able to provide decent meals for them before school or even after school. And, the Democratic Labour Party is trying their best. to intervene. I know that myself and some of the other candidates are assisting as best as we could. But the reality is that there is more that needs to be done. And as I tell persons, as I canvass and as I speak to people, there is a reason for the government, to be the government, and there is a reason for your current member of parliament. And just as we are utilizing the little resources that we do have to assist, we do believe that the government needs to roll out a larger program, I dare say a national program, to begin to tackle this real issue of hunger. This is within our communities. Yes, at the micro level, but at the macro level, there are a lot of people who are not going to come and say that they're hungry, and there are a lot of people who aren't going to come and say that they're starving. So, taking into account that element of pride that we have as Barbadians, not wanting people to know when we are struggling, people really need to understand that people have it very, very, very hard, and I don't think that we could emphasize that enough tonight.
Right. What would an accountable government do differently tomorrow, in your opinion?
In my opinion, an accountable government would actually come to the public with a solution, a very real solution. I think we've outlined some of the solutions, particularly with respect to the issue of hunger in our schools. We knew that under the Democratic Labour Party government between 2008 to 2018, we ran a series of breakfast programs at our primary schools and secondary schools across the island. So that's just one way in terms of creating that immediate intervention to ensure that our children aren't hungry. But I definitely do feel that the community centers, and we have underscored the importance of community centers on this show from its inception, that the community centers are underutilized. Right now, they're practically monopolized. So persons who aren't in support of the government practically aren't being allowed to utilize the community spaces, which is quite sad, because I also feel as if, it doesn't matter who you cast your X for. We're all Barbadian. And if something is benefiting the community, then I think it's government's responsibility to pass that information on to their MPs so that persons have full use of the facilities within the community centers. However, if the government is really serious about, this issue of tackling the cost of living and providing an ease for agents, I think we could utilize the community centers to actually, and it's not so much so soup kitchen, because I feel that that's more the Barbados Labour Party style of politics. So we don't want to encourage people to come, with plates in hand and everything else for food, but perhaps using the community centers to assess who is in greater need, allow drop-ins to happen between the hours of 8 and 5, where people can actually come in and the government actually undertake a fair assessment of who is in need, and actually then roll out something to meet those needs, whether it be a stipend of some sort. I know we in St. Michael North are working towards getting some food vouchers so that when we canvass households, we're able to leave something with the households that we believe need it most, But again, that's not something that can be done on my own. So we do need collective buy-in. We do need, business owners at this stage in the country to try to see beyond partisan politics. We know the government is in power. We know that they won 30 seats. And we know that people are fearful, to be seen to be supporting a Democratic Labour Party candidate, or to be seen to be assisting. I think a business person, quite aptly put it sometime back. They're not BLP or DLP, they're PAG party in government. So until, we look as if we're winning government or something of the sort, it seems as if people don't want to get on board to assist our efforts. But the truth is that Bajans are suffering. And it doesn't matter whether the Barbados Labour Party is assisting or the Democratic Labour Party is assisting. And it's sad the way that the country has gone in terms of this transactional type of politics, because at the end of the day, people feel as if their vote and their livelihood, is tied to a vote, and that's not the way it was. So I am urging all the businesses out there, supermarkets and otherwise, the Democratic Labour Party is working. We do need your support, regardless of whether we are the party in government or not. This party has a purpose, and we always have had a purpose, and we will continue to live out that purpose now and beyond.
Right. So let's move on to food security and groceries. Food prices are out of control. Chicken, rice, flour, vegetables, cooking oil, everything is rising. Barbados relies heavily on imports. That makes us vulnerable, especially now with tensions escalating between Venezuela and United States. Shipping delays, rising fuel costs, and import disruptions will hit us immediately. And yet this government has no buffer plan. So what does this mean for families and businesses, David?
Melissa, you honestly believe that this government doesn't have a buffer plan? They have a buffer plan. We know they have a buffer plan. The buffer plan will come closer and closer when elections are almost due.
Mhm.
The government will come with the goodies. The government will come with some buffer plan that is supposed to impress people
The
on
1300.
people that they care. That's the buffer plan. We care. So let us do something for the time, for the period, for the election. The reality is this government has failed the people of Barbados. It continues to fail the people of Barbados. People are seeing,
Mhm.
let me say this quickly. People are seeing. The reality is that people sit in their homes and they hear about these loans. I mean, I've lost count on the amount of loans that this government has taken in our names.
Mhm.
And sadly, with all the loans and all the taxes, the government is raking in billions in taxes, garbage and switch tax. Billions, over $1 billion a year. The reality is there's no accountability for that. The loans, the loans, the loans. Some weeks there are 2 loans being signed off on. And we, the people of Barbados, are still in the dark in regards to these loans. The reality is that people are losing hope. They're losing hope because they're living paycheck to paycheck. They can't feed their families properly. A lot of people can't do doctor visit, dental visits.
Mhm.
Some of us got little hearing problems, can't even go to an audiologist because we don't have the money to do it. The businesses are suffering because we are suffering. So in extension, the country is dying. The country is dying because of poor management, poor fiscal management.
Mhm.
This government has done poorly. If this was a friendly short government, people would be marching in the streets. And I keep saying this all the time. If this was a friendly short government, people would be in the streets calling for his head. The reality is that this government has failed the people of Barbados. It continues to fail. And food security, you really want me to touch on food security?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Because the government that cares nothing about agriculture in Barbados. Nothing about agriculture. We got a minister that every now and then he come and makes a promise. We've been promised so many things for agriculture, but we have a lot of non-delivery going on. It seems that the delivery truck broke down, and it probably electric truck can't get the batteries for it. The reality is that until we get agriculture right, until we start to produce some of our own food, we are going to be in trouble. You're talking food security?
Mhm.
We have no real food security in Barbados. Let the US and Venezuela start to get some silly skirmish. We will suffer. We will suffer if the US and Venezuela really begin to curse across the waters at one another, because then the shipping lanes are going to become disrupted. You can imagine a Barbados with a disrupted shipping lane, where vessels can't get to Barbados to bring food. We don't produce enough of our own food.
But according to the central bank report that was released recently, agriculture production is up.
It's up where? It's up in St. Philip, up in St. John. It's up where? Agriculture in Barbados is dismal. I go into the supermarket. I don't like foreign fruit and vegetables. I always look for local stuff.
Mm.
And you go into the supermarkets, whether it's a local mini mart or a big supermarket, you don't see local produce. And that is a problem by itself. Because if there's no local produce, obviously you have imported produce. And because you're dealing with imported produce, you're dealing with a shipping lane. And the reality is that that is not food security. You're depending on somebody else to feed you,
Mm.
whether you have the money to buy it or not. you're depending on somebody else. So Barbados is in a crisis, and there's a serious crisis when it comes to food.
Mhm.
As I said, one little skirmish in the waters, in Caribbean waters, and we'll have to eat each other.
Not
That's what
just,
we taste.
not just the Caribbean waters, but international waters.
International waters. And we'll be in trouble.
Mhm.
So we got to be serious about ourselves. And we need to stop pretending that this government is doing well. This government is not doing well
At all.
by no means. But there's some of us who want to pretend us out of trouble. We can't pretend ourselves out of trouble.
Mhm.
We have to come with solutions. There have to be solutions to move this country to a safer place. And see, food security, that's the big issue for me. We need to produce.
Mhm.
We need to produce urgently.
All right, Miss Dujon, you're a little farmer. What is stopping us from producing more food?
Oh dear. Thank you, comrade, for giving us a very insightful view of what is happening in agriculture. Because the last time we heard anything about agriculture was the Minister of Foreign Affairs speaking about a sheep and what the sheep did to him in Parliament. So the reality is that this is a government that is not taking the matters of the people seriously. They believe that things will happen on its own. And if you're a government, you are there to govern. And this is exactly what you're speaking about. You see, when Labour leads, and we don't want persons to lead, we want people to govern. And govern means good governance, and putting people, having people-centered policies that would guide in terms of our livelihoods, our lives. And we're seeing a government that, goes to Parliament and makes humor out of the struggles of people, out of struggles of what the ordinary Barbadian is experiencing.
Mhm.
It doesn't seem that they're understanding what people are experiencing right now. It seems there is a disconnection between the government because they're only leading themselves as far as I can see, and they're not taking in consideration the crisis that people are experiencing right now. Food security has always been a very challenging concern. We're seeing what is happening right now in Jamaica. With all of the kinds of natural disasters and destruction, how it can affect us. And now we may have a potential man-made disaster that can affect our own food securities. And so the reality is that what is the so-called Minister of Education, Minister, I will come to education, what is the Minister of Agriculture doing? And the Minister of Trade, what is he doing? Apart from standing up in Parliament speaking about a sheep. In that kind of context, it doesn't seem that people are taking the business of the people seriously. They do not understand that when someone goes to the supermarket and really cannot afford those high cost of living, those high prices for foreign goods, what it does to the families, when children and families cannot afford the very basics. And we have to remind the Barbadian populace that we've had food shortages over a period of time. We have had chicken shortages, we've had milk, and a variety,
Egg shortages.
egg shortages, and everything else of that component. So the reality is that it's just not what we have and what we can produce, but how much it's going to cost us to import. And given that we have been borrowing for over the entire administration of this government, it also tells us that we have less spending, and we have less money to buy whatever that we required. And we're not only looking at in terms of food security as well, but medicine. We have to import those as well.
Mhm.
And the reality is that I have come across constituents that have spoken about not being able to have access to certain types of medication. So the reality is that we are at a very difficult and challenging time. And I think what Comrade has spoken about is that we are in a period where the consequences of bad governance is what the effects of bad governance is what we're reaping right now. And I think every Barbadian understands that we will have to make a decision very soon. And we're not making that decision just for us. We're making that decision for our children and the generations of all Barbadians. And the reality is that this government is thinking about winning an election. What I observed today is that I went to Digicel and Flow, and Digicel and those companies actually given, those promotions where you get vouchers for food. That's interesting. When private sector understands that the country itself requires some kinds of intervention. You've seen they're trying to pay electricity bills. Something is happening. Something deep-seated is happening in this country, and we know it. It's happening. Some of us are afraid to speak about it. But we, the members of the Democratic Labour Party, we will continue to speak about it because it's important, not just for us, but the future generation of all Barbadians. And this is what we will continue to do.
All right, let's discuss the prices in the supermarkets. Why has price monitoring failed? Damien.
Because I don't think this government took their promise and their mandate to the Barbadian people seriously when they said that they were going to regulate and ensure that there weren't going to be any form of unfair pricing or price gouging in regards to the foods in the supermarket. This government tends to want to, and I'm going to tack on to what my comrade said in regards to their lead, basically. And to me, in a sense, it sounds despotic when you think about their slogan, though, when labor leads, people apparently succeed. But that is not the case. It seems like they are so far ahead of everybody else that they've lost touch. And if you want proof of that, listen to the Prime Minister when she said that when she listens to the call-in program, she thinks she's in a different Barbados or she's in a different country. She doesn't know what country she's in. That goes to show that you were out of touch. So then if you're out of touch with something as simple as that, the people suffering inside of a country, then those systems of control that you put in place to protect them, like in regards to fair trading and so on, those are going to lapse. Right now, I think in regards to even our utilities, the Barbadian people don't even know what's going on with that. So if they don't even know what's going on with their food and their utilities, how are we then know to come to you and say, well, listen, something is wrong here. Something is seriously wrong here. We need you to step up. And you're not even taking the time to listen to the people in the calling programs because you tell yourself, well, this ain't my country, so I like this, shut myself out. And there is something serious going on in our supermarkets because I go into them sometimes and I see people putting food, groceries back, and that for me is a sad reality because I myself, I try to help people as much as possible. Sometimes I might see somebody in the line with me and I tell them, don't put it back, I will cover you. You know what I mean? And and I will get outside and then somebody will come and show me, short man, I'm sorry that I didn't next to you, boy. They really need some help with my groceries too. You know what I mean? And then he might tell you something, well, I got an extra $20 here to go back and get what you need. Right? But you can't do that for everybody. You understand? Because you yourself, you are struggling, you are suffering. And the government is so out of touch and so far aloof in their ivory towers and with their hubris that they can't even come to the Barbadian people and tell them, well, listen, as Don was talking about earlier, they need to come with solutions. Yes, I agree with Don. But what they need to do is to come with admission first. Yes, cost of living is high. Yes, we failed you in regards to making sure that you are not priced out of your own food. Once they admit that, yes, our policies are failing, then they can come with these solutions. But those solutions have to come on the backdrop of you listening to the people and saying, well, all right, we hear you, and we will go back to the drawing board and bring something to the table so that you can critique. And then if we can come to some form of consensus, then we will go a little bit parliament. The government is so inept, it can't even do that. So it's time for the people to really take a stand and wake up. You've been marching through the streets back then when you were displeased between 2008 and 2018. Now is that time to stand up and get on the soles of your feet and walk again. And I don't even, there's a part I don't want to jump ahead, comrade, but regards to, you have a part here with utilities, energies, and fuel. There are people who are dissatisfied with the sewage running in the streets. There's sewage running in the taps in St. Lucie, because that's all you can call it. That brown water in water, that is sewage. And if we're going now to talk about, well, listen, if we on principle could be displeased with a previous administration and vote them out on their performance, then the same principles should apply now. And we need to act before anything else goes completely wrong, because we cannot suffer another 3.5 years, because this government doesn't have the stamina to last even 5 years as constitutionally mandated. We can't suffer another 3 or 4 years of them running the helm, talking about promises made, promises delivered, which is a lie. a gaslighting lie.
All right. In the event that war actually breaks out between Venezuela and US, what would be our answer? Vegetables don't grow in one day. Some take 6 months. Some take 4. Some take longer. How will we handle this situation? Don.
I think, to be perfectly honest, the Prime Minister will send emails to the President of the United States and the President of Venezuela, believing that she could bring about a truce or peace, at least, because as she said,
What can we do?
she said when she listens to the calling program, she doesn't even believe that this is her country. So perhaps it is no longer her country. They say the Prime Minister is global now, so perhaps she may be the one to stop the war if there is to be a war in our shore, in our seas. But I think honestly, it is just saddening. That's all I could really say. That after 7 years of leading the country on the premise of caring, you could sit and listen to the calling program, and rather than accept, as a caring prime minister or a caring government, that this is how your people feel, rather than accept that and try to remedy that, you basically, as Fannis quite rightly said, not using it out of context, make people believe that what they're going through isn't what they're going through, and cause people to question their everyday living circumstances. It's just quite sad. But if war had to break out, I would hope that we don't get involved. As a smaller nation, I think we need to stay out of a lot of things, but that's a whole other debate, because to expose our country, on one hand, yes, it is a good thing. Everyone knows Barbados is on the map, But on the other hand, a lot of the international issues don't really affect us, and the government isn't dealing with the issues that affect us. So I am one to quite argue more on the side of internal issues and national issues and national politics, and we try to bring the issues back to the things that trouble Bajans the most. And for some reason, we seem to be involved, or at least our leadership seems to be involved in the global issues that really doesn't have an impact on us, on an everyday basis. But with respect to war, there is enough war going on locally, amongst gangs in various communities and otherwise. There was another shooting in Cave Hill today. Yeah. 2 shootings. Well, I was right around the corner from, I guess, the first. This was around 2 p.m. this afternoon. But when we speak of war, I think we have to look at how we intend to wrestle gun violence on our own shores first. I'm just flabbergasted by it all, to be fair. We need to really focus on our national issues at this point in time.
We keep hearing that we have a prime minister that is a globalist. But yet we have issues that are national issues. And we are not seeing, I am not seeing any solutions, any real solutions to the issue of gun violence in Barbados, because it's almost, this thing is worrying for me, and it should be worrying for all Barbadians, because gun violence, I've never seen a bullet. We don't have bullets that are guided by sonar, laser, all kind of things. These things can kill you. You can go down the road, driving your car, and a stray bullet can kill you. I'm concerned about it, and I don't think this government is doing enough about gun violence in Barbados. And the reality is that the issue of a globalist, a leader who's a global leader, how can you be a global leader when you're not showing real leadership in your own country?
Mm-hmm.
Barbados is in dire straits as far as I'm concerned. In any war, as we're talking about, we are not pit bull, we're a German Shepherd, we're merely the little tweet dogs, not even a Chihuahua. And the global spirit things. We don't have any bar.
A teacup.
Nobody wants to hear us. They don't care about us.
They don't.
So the reality is that our prime minister needs to bring herself back to ground in Barbados and deal with Barbados issues before she goes out impressing on some of her sycophants that she's a globalist.
Mm.
If you're a globalist, fix your problems here before you go to try to fix world problem. And for God's sake, Madam Prime Minister, don't get involved in these people's business. If there's war in Ukraine, then nothing you could do to change it. If there can be war in Venezuela, beg them not to fight down here. The reality is that we have our own war in Barbados that has to be brought under control.
Mm.
And because we can't afford to have this is an island that depends on tourism.
Mm.
So the gun violence is stupid. Anybody that think that, oh, I'm a gangster and I go and kill somebody, obviously does not care about themselves. Because they're cutting off the very little branch that they're sitting on. Because 2 or 3 that these with the embassy tend to put out, what you call them? Advisories. 2 or 3 these advisories. I know tourists can go. There are several countries in the world that offer the same thing we offer.
Mm-hmm.
So the reality is that we cannot afford any travel advisories right now. The very leg we are standing on is tourism.
Mm.
And if these young men, and I say young men, because those are the ones I'm seeing dead in the streets. Until these young men realize that they're cutting the very branch that they're sitting on, that their behavior is going to make their family suffer. Because that's the reality, you know. These silly things they do, the dangerous things they do, is going to make their family suffer. It's going to make this country suffer. And then the real fear is when they tired killing one another, they come to kill us for our food. Because there ain't no food no more. We can't afford food no more. We don't have the foreign exchange to send overseas to buy the food because we're not producing food.
Correct. All right, so we move on to utilities, energy, and fuel. Electricity bills are soaring. Power cuts are common.
Mhm.
Fuel prices are unpredictable. And all this is made worse by regional instability. Venezuela-US tensions could spike oil and fuel prices even higher. Yet this government has ignored renewable energy, alternative sources, and contingency plans. Tell us, whose responsibility is this? And how will families survive the next price shock? Damien.
I'm probably going to sound like who I think is to blame for this. Because what I think this government has done to the Barbadian people is that they said we're going to put the fanciest language on a manifesto, just put it up there and, just sail with it. And in doing so, they had no plan on how to achieve it. And even right now, we are seeing that there is this disparity in regards to how the Barbadian people are kept in the loop when it comes to their high energy bills in regards to the electricity. Now, right now, we are in a situation where that even your water isn't even coming to you. It isn't even coming to you clean, and then yet still you are paying a sewage tax. And then there's some people who still are paying this sewage tax, and they're not even hooked up to the sewage system. So what this government has basically done is tied itself in a hole, or basically tied itself into a pretzel. And they then threw themselves into a paper bag and then gouged their eyes out. So they can't even find the way out of the paper bag because they have no solutions. Me personally, I'm not an energy expert. I specifically can't even really speak to the issues in regards to how you would even, I guess, adjudicate these matters, as like there's currently no they want the light and power, and they think it's raise the prices and keep the people. There was an intervener actually or something along that lines that they want to keep them out of the process itself. So the Barbadian people they don't even getting the information in that regard.
They're claiming that they need the investment to upgrade their battery storage.
That the average Barbadian cannot store.
So, all right. So my thing is then is that when you made these plans, when you all right, let me try back. What I find dangerous about a government is that you tend to put these initiatives out there, but then you don't have anything to back it up. There's nothing that shows a route from A, the promise, to B, any form of, I guess, development, C, implementation, and then D, I guess, assessment. They don't have it. So then we will find ourselves in these problems all the time where this government makes a promise. They probably take out a loan on this promise.
Mhm.
And then you don't know where the money's gone. And then they take out another loan again to fulfill the very same promise.
Mm.
So I'm at a loss when it comes to what this government is doing. And maybe my comrades can help me because they seem to be more articulate when it comes to these things.
Yeah,
Don't you want me to tag you in?
I was at a loss at something I saw today right in the Prime Minister's constituency, and I'm sorry because it really baffled me. Two women and a child at a sandpipe bathing, a girl child, mind you. I guess they wore their bikinis, or at least I hope they were bikinis. No, that I drove past, and I thought, we're in 2025, and it was just so bizarre to me because I know there are water outages across the island. But when did people have to resort to these measures in our society? You know what I mean? And what is also concerning is that when we look across each of the constituencies, traditionally women are the ones who turn out to vote. So one could easily say that the women voted the Barbados Labour Party in, but the Barbados Labour Party aren't looking after the women in this country, you know, and we don't speak a lot about the gender issues and the different intersections when it comes to class and gender, and when it comes to working class women. And even on the way down, I offered a ride to some person who was coming from work, and she was talking about the issues that she was having. And I do take it upon myself to ride with people if I am going in the same direction, because you just never know. And I like to know what's going on in the country, and I like to, you know, be able to share with comrade leader, you know, some of the things that are happening to the average Bajan. And this young lady actually told me she's actually without a home, you know. And when you listen to the issues, yes, the men have their issues, but the issues of women are totally different to that of men. And we know that a lot of our households are led by females. We know a lot of our households are led by single mothers. We know that in households, sometimes the women are the only persons in the households that are working. So when we speak to these issues of the rising cost of living and utilities and everything else, we are faced with the reality that the women are paying the bills, you know, and these women have to provide sometimes for 3 and 4 children in a household. So that just struck me today. It's not laughing matter. I was just flabbergasted at the fact that it was right by a main road as well. So it's not as if one could hide. It is a heavily traversed main road in the constituency of St. Michael Northeast. So any and everybody that was going along that way could have seen those 3 female bodies bathing. And I am particularly protective of girls, having a daughter myself. So I thought, you know, yeah, situations obviously are dire, but perhaps the government also needs to look into the fact that, is that going to be something that is commonplace? Do female bodies have to be exposed now, even in this present day, for something as essential as bathing, you know, having water to drink? Something that I have said, and I don't know if people know this, but this concept of cutting people's water off is actually against our essential human rights. In the United Kingdom, you cannot cut off someone's water supply for the lack of payment. And I understand that here it is a common practice, I guess. And I guess it carries a bit of shame as well when one looks as if they can't pay their bills or pay their light or their water. But it is an essential human right for a person to actually have fresh water to drink, to have water to bathe. If people can't bathe, they can't go to work. So look at how the poverty cycle continues. So you have your job, you're working, you're barely making money to cover your bills. You can't pay your water bill, your water is cut off. You can't go to bathe to go to work. So how are we assisting persons who are in dire straits in this country right now with respect to being able to provide for themselves. I think the government needs to take a serious stance against this cutting off of water, because when you cut off water in a household, and I mentioned already, the demographic of St. Michael North, again, children living in households, majority women. You cannot tell a mother who has 4 children to send to school, you can't pay your water bill, so your children can't go to school, you can't go to work. What are we doing in this country in 2025? Is the government serious? And we have mentioned the sewage tax countless of times. Can the sewage tax be used to provide some form of cover right now for households who are unable to pay their water bills? We know the issue with St. Lucie is something that's ongoing, and I think we've done enough intervention on that to allow people to understand the severeness of the situation in St. Lucie. But right now, counting the other 10 parishes, for households that are struggling to make ends meet, can the government use some of the taxes that they are collecting to come to some agreement with the BWA to at least show that the funds that are being collected in taxes are being utilized to better the lives of the average Barbadian? That's something that I really want to know. But I do feel if the Prime Minister is a champion of the cause and a champion for everything else and for the climate and everything else, the Prime Minister needs to take a stance on the Barbados Water Authority cutting off the water supply in households for lack of payment. And that's a very, very serious issue. And people don't want to talk about it. It's the elephant in the room. Every household, regardless of the ability to pay or not pay, should have running water, and the government needs to make an assessment in terms of the genuine nature of cases and that inability to pay, and ensure that they are assisting households with the ability to cover their costs of water, or at least taking the accounts of persons who are actually unable to pay. And I've met a constituent who has a water bill of $3,000. Right? And I thought I would raise this here. $3,000 not accrued by him, but he rented his house out to a tenant who refused to pay. He had to then get his house back and come to an arrangement with the BWA to pay down on the bill. Now that he is in the house, he has 3 children in the house, right? No water. He said he brings water from the city in his van where his other family is. He transports the water in buckets up to where he resides. And that's how he survives presently until this water bill is paid. What are we doing in this country with respect to people's dignity and the payment of bills?
I don't
Go
think
ahead.
I can jump in here and say I don't think you can really blame Barbados Water Authority for that. Because if you are going to rent your house out, you should put the utilities in the name of the renter. That is the security you need. As long as you leave it in your name and that renter leaves you with a big bill, then you got to deal with it. So that is you can't blame the government for that one for sure. But in regards to water, just recently, big official from BWF spoke about the high delinquency in regards to payments. And I kind of wondered, who could be so delinquent when the average Joe, the average householder, the average poor person, if they miss 2 payments, their water is cut off. How can then they be responsible for this large amount of money that's outstanding, that's owed to the BWA? So who really owes the BWA? Because the average person, the average citizen is not allowed to go over 2 months. It does not happen. So that's the question they need to come and tell the people the truth and not throw these broad-based arguments out. No. Question for everybody here. I have something to say. I'm not going to show you what I'm selling, but I want $50 from each of you for this product that I have to sell. Are you all willing to pay me for it? So why are we paying sewage tax in St. George North?
Or regathering.
We are paying for something that we are not receiving or using. The reality is that sewage tax and having to pay sewage tax as a citizen living in a zone that is not covered by the sewage treatment plant is, to me, it is unfair and is very unreasonable to ask people to pay for something they're not receiving as a service or good. So, I don't know if any other government in the history of Barbados could get away with this. People in Barbados are paying for something they're not receiving. How can, this thing is so ludicrous. We are asleep. Something is wrong. The reality is that people are paying a tax. People are paying for something. They're being taxed for something that they don't use. Can I charge you a taxi fare, Damien, for not driving in my car? That is what sewage tax is for the people of St. George North. They're paying for something they don't use. Reality is that bills in Barbados, I noticed recently, not recently, for a while though, this includes telecom bills too. They just keep inching up and inching up all the time. And I will go to my provider because I have to make a decision. Because within the last year, the bill went up at least $30. And with no explanation. Sometimes I mean, Saturday, if I had to live alone, those bills would be history. It would be history. Sorry, they would have been history. I would have gotten rid of all those bills. Because the reality is that these companies, a lot of these companies in Barbados, just like the government, they're taking Barbadians for granted. People are taking us for granted. People think that we are fools. That's why they can charge us a tax for something we don't have, we don't use. Because we are playing the fool's game. People in Barbados should be marching against the sewage tax right now at 18 months tax. Garbage tax, 18 months tax. We buy the trucks, we pay the workers, we buy the buildings, we provide the sewage, the garbage thing, and everything. So we own the garbage collection company, but yet we cost the damn pay for the garbage collection. This thing is this government. I don't understand why people are so sympathetic to the nonsense this government is going to do to Barbados.
I have a question, and it only just came to my mind. Do we have an office of the ombudsman here?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do people utilize it as they should? Because I know for a fact that the office of the ombudsman, with the state of affairs now presently, one has to beg the question about the regulatory services that are provided in terms of questioning the feasibility, the viability, questioning the legality of some of the things that are happening in this country. So we mentioned the prices of goods, so everything we are talking about impacts essentially the cost of living. How do we know that Bajans aren't being downright abused with respect to what is happening in this country? Who is the independent body that we go to, or that we should at least be able to go to? So we are speaking about public services now. We're not talking about the private sector. Well, gosh, who knows what is public and private now? This is the thing.
It's true.
So we really don't know, which entity is public or private. When we speak about the sewage tax, we still don't know where that money is going. And I would have probed back in May, during the St. James North by election, the election watch and whatnot, still haven't received an answer. So we don't know where the sewage tax money is going, which department is going to. We agreed that in the actual budget, there was no particular allocation for it. So we don't know exactly where those funds are being allocated. But is there a regulatory body at this stage that you or I could go to and say, well, to be fair, I am not managing and I feel as if this is unjustifiable? Can Bajans go now with their water bill and say this sewage tax is unjustifiable and we want it removed? Can we collectively go ahead and commission the ombudsman to investigate this particular tax. I really want to know
Maybe as candidates we should.
what is happening, in that respect, because I feel as if we have a right to challenge it. I do believe, yes, 30 love, without any accountability, well, 29 no, but without any fair accountability, public accounts committee isn't meeting. We know that the Auditor General isn't functioning. So with respect to any financial questioning, there are issues there. But with respect to utilities and services provided, is there a person that we can go to?
All right, David, I want you to just explain to the audience how the consolidated fund functions.
You be government consolidated fund.
Yeah.
That is the catchment. That's the bucket that all the money just drop into.
Supposed to drop.
In truth and in fact, our taxes are supposed to go to the consolidated fund. But here lies the problem. And then there'll be accountability in regards to what goes into that bucket. But here lies the problem. There are a number of taxes that don't see the light of day in the consolidated fund.
Correct.
And that's where the problem really lies, So the garbage tax collected by Barbados Water Authority. And what's really sad about that is if you don't pay in those two taxes, your water cut off. So the reality is that
I don't think that tax goes to the consolidated fund.
Does not go to the consolidated fund. I was querying the fuel tax.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Does that go to the consolidated fund? Barbadians need to ask questions in regards to all these taxes that are being collected by this government. In regards to the consolidated fund, the relationship these taxes have with the consolidated fund. I say that deliberately because you can't be collecting $1 billion a year in garbage and such tax, and nobody can get an answer in regards to how much money has been collected since these taxes were implemented on bar. This 18 months tax, 7 years later, we still don't know how much money was collected.
Mm-hmm.
You have, look, I don't understand how come Bajans aren't in the streets marching. There's this additional tax to fund the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, how was the hospital funded before? It was working better when there wasn't that additional tax,
Mm-hmm.
But so now there's an additional tax, and the hospital get worse.
And so I'll raise 100,000 too. Don't forget.
So the reality is, what is really going on? What is it that the more money that is collected by this government, the poor the services to the people of Barbados are getting? Example, we talk about services. Bus services is poor Barbados.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? I mean, and this is the government that came in and promised the people of Barbados that they would have done something about bus service in Barbados. But instead of getting better, it has gotten worse. Even the garbage collection situation, even though there has been an improvement, and we gotta be fair, it's still not up to par. Still not up to par. So the reality is that this government has failed and has collected more money than any government in the history of Barbados, in the history of this country. This 40 new taxes, and the people of Barbados ain't seeing a better life. They're having difficulty feeding themselves. They're having difficulty. I see so many children not going to school in Barbados, and it bothers me as a school teacher myself to see children just moving around casually during the day when school is supposed to be on. There's so much going on in Barbados that is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That is wrong. This government needs to come clean to the people of Barbados. And there's a lot more you can say, but I am not hog the show tonight. There's a lot more you can say.
All right, and Damien, who is accountable for energy mismanagement in Barbados?
Mayor Motley.
Well, she's the prime minister, minister of everything, to be fair. I think the Prime
Um,
Minister still have response. Sorry, Damien, go
Well,
ahead.
well, to be honest, right, I've lost track of
Runs the ministry.
who really runs whatever ministry they're in charge of, because it seems like the as I said, the BLP itself as a party and a government, they are an echo chamber. The prime minister speaks to 28 individuals and they repeat everything back to her. So they're listening to her and repeating everything back to her at the same time. So I told myself, I'm really not sure who is responsible, because the prime minister is the one who seems to be the one who leads. And then at the same time, her ministers don't have a voice in cabinet. Because I'm gonna go back to to the to the legislation, the interception of communications.
Right.
You got me? I find it so hard to believe that there's so many lawyers in that cabinet and not one of them, right? And not one of them caught the loopholes in regards to that piece of the provision 5B that spoke to wireless warrants. No, if we speak to basic, who is supposed to be responsible in regards to when it comes to complaints in regards to the electricity, and this Fair Trading Commission, I'm not even sure if the Fair Trading Commission is even operable right now. Is it?
Yes.
Well, they should. I think that's one of the things that, listening to our comrades and what we're seeing, there's no sense of accountability. There's no independent body, though in mandate that it is there. Those independent bodies and agencies supposed to be there to guide and regulate government's behavior. But it seems that something else is happening. It seems that the government seems to have a hegemony over these agencies. And because of that, it's very unfortunate, because citizens should have the right to voice their concerns. They should have a right to speak against the government. They should have a right to direct the government if the government is not doing or directing the path the way that it should. The government speaks about leading, but to be a good leader, you also have to take into account who your followers are. You can't just go ahead and decide this is my way or no way. You have to, and I think this is something else that we want to look at. The Democratic Labour Party, we are hoping and seeking to govern. We're not looking for a boss lady. And that's when you have a boss lady, it is very different than having someone that is held accountable. And we must have that element of transparency and accountability, because citizens are, they're adults and they have consciousness. They have a sense of responsibility. So it's not that they do not want to pay the bills. The idea is that they cannot pay the bills. There's a clear difference in that. And I think that we haven't taken into consideration the struggles that the average Barbadian is going through. And we've seen, perhaps that's one of the reasons that we do not remember the ministers on who is responsible for who, or what ministry they're responsible for, because it seems that they are all on the same mandate, that it is about our interests. It's self-interest government. It's not people-centered. And this is why we're seeing the kind of policies that we have. We're not seeing gender-sensitive policies that will deal with issues of single parents, mothers in the household. We're not seeing issues that deals with our young men and why they're unable to acquire the kinds of skill that is required for the various employment agencies. We're seeing a government that speaks about a very low unemployment, but we see differently. We see differently. We see what is happening within our communities. We're seeing the children that are not going to school. Please let me know so I can come across in that constituency, because they need to go to school.
Why would also add sorry, go ahead.
Because when I heard that just raised the alarm. And I saw something very interesting a few days ago. And when we talk about the transport system, just in Black Rock, I saw police officers stop a bus, not the ZRs, the yellow bus, and it was overpacked with students. So the reality is that we do not have enough transportation, and we have a deputy prime minister that is also responsible for transportation. What are they doing to ensure that not only our students, but our citizens are able to get to work on time and safely as well? And the reality is that this is a government, I believe, as I said before, they are primarily focused on winning an election, not about governing a country.
Mhm.
Their mandate right now is regathering, and they're regathering everywhere, but to ensure that the people are being taken care of. And I think that is what we need to highlight, that our people, the Barbadian populace, is looking for answers. They're looking for solutions. But most importantly, they need us to stand with them, because we have a tyrannical government that does not want people to speak up against them.
All right, we're going to move on to education and youth. Education is under siege. Schools lack resources. Teachers pay out of pocket for basic supplies. Parents are forced to cover uniforms, meals, transportation, and devices. Dropout rates are rising. Futures are being stolen, not by circumstance, but by government neglect. And with regional instability threatening import, school meals and supplies are at risk. Panel, or let me say Felicia, since you're the spokesperson for education. What are the long-term consequences if this continues?
If we continue with this government, we can almost guarantee the consequences of our future, of our children. We have seen a government that has had 4 or 5 ministers of education, and what we have seen is the constant closure of school that has disrupted children's learning. We have seen a government that has not thought it's important enough to give school the subsidies that is needed. At this point, I believe many primary schools have not received the subsidies that is needed. And we're almost to the end of the term. And we're having a minister of education speaking on whatever platform that they are expecting students to have a higher literacy level at the age of 7.
Right.
However, every other week children at home.
Yeah.
Every other week schools are closed. And this week we saw a number of schools were closed, whether it was for some kind of a rodent infestation. So if the infrastructure is not adequate, if the ministries are not looking into those matters, this government's priority is about PR, how good we look on television, how well we speak, and our celebrity status, and how well it speaks. So the reality is that we've seen a number of those concerns, and I think Barbadians need to really think about it. And it brings back to the point that our Comrade Dawn Marie made, that we have seen a government that speaks very highly about education and everything else, but we're not seeing it in the classrooms. We're seeing children missing schools and on those kinds of matters. I think it's a serious concern that this government has not realized that you were given the mandate twice. And I don't think you would deserve another mandate again. You don't deserve another mandate because of what you have continued to do in the event of children. As mothers, we expect that one of the greatest gifts that we can give a child is education after life, to educate your child. And education has built the platform for Barbadians. And we've seen a government that really does not care, does not put in the kind of interest that is needed. Pedagogy is not of interest to this government. Infrastructure is not of interest to this government. And we're seeing the result. We've seen that the number of students, high school dropouts is alarming. We're seeing the performance is alarming. However, we're seeing that the government continue to hire communication specialists while we have rodents in our schools, while our students are not receiving the kind of intervention that is needed. And I have always continued to advocate that we do need more male teachers in schools. We've seen that in some classes, I've visited some schools with more male. I've seen a gradual response to that. And I think the ministry really we need to have those kind of gender sensitive policies in education so that we understand the impact that it has on our young people, particularly our youth, our young men. And it's important that they see persons in leadership positions as them. And so for the Ministry of Education, I believe that this government is exhausted. It is exhausted because it really does not know what to do. We've been talking about education transformation for the last 7 years. for the last 7 years with 5 ministers of education, and we have not seen what results after millions have been spent. We have spoken, the government has spoken, the ministry has spoken about inclusive education. And yes, we've seen very small steps and stages of it. But again, the reality is that a number of our children, our students, will be at a disadvantage. And if we're speaking about every other global politics that will happen, and that's the question I wanted to throw in as well. We have a leader that is supposed to be a global icon. What has her ministry has put in place with a pending conflict within the region when it comes to food security, when it comes to education? What plans do they have? What are your plans? Because everything seems to be ad hoc. Today it's one idea, tomorrow it's another idea, and everything just seems that it's dysfunctional. And because it's dysfunctional, they tend to gaslight the public. That it's not our fault, it is you, because you voted for us. So you get what you get.
David, I wanted to add, because Melissa mentioned accountability, and one of the viewers mentioned that the country has one ombudsman and they were recently replaced. But really, there should be an ombudsman assigned to every public service provided by this government. So just as the Prime Minister sought to create how much ever new ministries, to ensure that her colleagues were well salaried, at least up until the next general election, we asked the government, in the midst of the issues that the public are faced with, particularly with respect to the rising cost of living, particularly with respect to utilities, with respect to services that are being provided, transport issues, to allow the opposition leader to have discussion with the Prime Minister about appointing ombudsmen to these different sectors. I think it is of utmost importance at this point in time, for Barbadians to feel as if they have an outlet, to feel as if they have a voice, and to actually begin to allow people to investigate the very real issues of persons in this country. So we speak about education and the failings of that. There should be an ombudsman set aside for education, an ombudsman set aside for utilities and other services, an ombudsman set aside for transport. I know that one would say, oh, well, that's an increase in the wage bill, but with the largest cabinet in the history of this country, I don't think an increase in the wages of actually a post that is useful and that would actually allow Bajans to have some form of consensus, because we know that the online when you sign all these signatures and sign this for me, those petitions don't really have any legal basis. It just allows people to share commonality in their grievances and whatnot. But actually having the post of ombudsman created across the public sector, independent from this government, and I say have the opposition leader do it because he is the voice of opposition to this government, could actually provide a much needed outlet, maybe more an independent. Well, the ombudsman is really supposed to be an independent adjudicator for the issues on behalf of the people. I think a good starting point will be for this government to create the post of ombudsman across the public sector and have various persons fill that position in light of the ongoing crisis and in light of their inability to really address the issues that the average Bajan is faced with.
David, you look like you want to add something.
I just wanted to. I was saying a little prayer for Marie because she's living in a dream world. The reality is that if it's not a post that will give this government a tighter grip on this country and keeping themselves in power, that is not a post for that purpose. Forget about it. The reality is that this government has invested a lot of money in consultants, media specialists, and putting 2 ministers in some ministries. A lot of this, as far as I'm concerned, they will justify, and their apologists, I call them their apologists, will come and say, The government know what they're doing. They had to do it. They got to do that. But in truth and in fact, what are these people that they are taking care of, who are there to make sure that they remain in government? Why these people go home and they can go to a hotel and eat and then go home and go to the restaurant, eat and go.
Right.
There's thousands of persons in Barbados that go to sleep
Hungry.
hungry. So the reality is that the issue with the school education in Barbados, right? This government has never done well for agriculture nor education. They have always done poorly in education in this country. Go back to when they took the children out of school to go to the gymnasium to lick tobacco. Remember that?
Educate.
That's education. To take the children out of school to go and party them. You understand? We got a situation, they had a situation in Barbados where they found some survey somewhere, I believe, and some sewage plant somewhere, because sewage seems to mean a lot to this government. And they brought this sewage to the children of Barbados, this X-rated sewage, and they dump it on the children of Barbados. That's a government that cares about children, about education. That's education. You understand what I'm saying? The reality is that this government has failed in education too. And they continue to fail it. You know, for the last 7 years, the 11 plus was supposed to go somewhere. Maybe the bus didn't come. You know, maybe they have the 11 plus got a transportation problem. It was supposed to go somewhere. This government does not have a plan for education. It is clear, like Felicia said, and Domery, a lot of gaslighting, a lot of promises. There's clearly a void in what they have to deliver as far as education is concerned. Education is right now in limbo. Schools, as Felicia said, not opening. I mean, they open. You remember the statement 1 week before school was supposed to reopen?
All schools are ready.
All schools are ready in Barbados.
Yeah.
And by the next week, how many schools weren't ready? Quite a few of the schools weren't ready. This government needs to be honest, needs to come to the people of Barbados and speak honestly to people and stop behaving as if a lie is. I'd be very sad to see that a government can come and lie to people incessantly. Got 2 bites of the cherry, and that we will come now and give them another bite of the cherry. They fail. They fail in lots of several ministries. They have failed.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? Give them more opportunity to fail us more? And at the end of the day, I want to say this. At the end of the day, when government fail, the people suffer.
Right. Felicia, back to you. You're a mother and you're also a teacher. What must be done immediately to protect our children?
Well, first of all, we have to vote this government out. We cannot continue with the Barbadians Labour Party. There's no way that we have a government that does not think or consider the plights of citizens, the plights of parents, and most importantly, the plights of teachers. We have seen the struggles that teachers have to go through already. They're struggling personally in their personal lives, and then for them to have to be subsidized in the classrooms. And so the reality is that this government has not put in any strategic plan or sustainable plans when it comes to education. The Democratic Labour Party, we do have a teaching commission, and we have been working over the past few years to put our plans in place. We have shared several with the public, because the reality is that this is our country as well, and whatever that we can do to advocate and champion on behalf, and most importantly, agitate this government to do better. Not only by our students, but also by teachers and for parents. And so we are going to look at the different pillars. We have 5 pillars, and I will continue to advocate that. I have noticed the new Minister of Education has attempted to draft it out, but the reality is that we don't plagiarize here. We're the real McCoy, and we will share the information because it's important. We will structure it in such a way. We will look at the various pillars where it's teaching methodologies. We will look at it in terms of student orientations and just the kinds of interventions that students need. Teachers, the kinds of support. It's very important, the support for teachers. I have been, and I think that's very important, that in as much as we see the ministry when it comes to environment issues, we see them at the schools, the ministry nor the minister visits schools the way that they should. They only visit schools when there's the media. And it's important, and even as parents, when you pick up your children, sometimes you would go in to just speak with teachers, look at the conditions of the schools. And I think that's important because, again, the Democratic Labour Party has always been people-centered, even at our detriment at times. But we are people-centered because the vision is about the people and the country. And so when we go out to work, we're not doing it for popularity. We're not doing it because we want to have the best highlights and the best terms and buzzwords. We don't do it that way. We speak the most simplest language. And we go and we walk to the schools however we can. Sometimes I have a little hat and I'm walking around because I'm not there to look good. I'm there to come and work on behalf of the people. And sometimes I've seen the struggles of teachers, just basic markers, dusters. As a teacher, it hurts my heart because I know these are basic things that you need. And to have a government that is circulating the school and gallivanting for regathering and not ensuring that students and teachers have the basic necessities in schools, it tells me, it aggravates me to the point that I sometimes want to go down to the ministry and ask the minister, listen, we need some markers at the schools. Because the reality is that as a teacher, you understand the importance of education. We do not play by education in this country. We take education very seriously. And this is why we always continue to champion on behalf of students, teachers, and education in this country, because we know what the pillars of education has done with this country. So we cannot allow anyone or any government to come on and do any kind of commerce, like the Prime Minister used that term, any commerce with the lives and future of our children. And so with those pillars, we also have to consider the holistic nature of our children. Because education is not about pedagogy only, but it's also about the holistic child, the person, the individual. What do you foresee that person to be? It's not only about literacy. Yes, we want to teach children to read and write and arithmetic. Yes, we want that. And numeracy, we want that. But if the conditions, we have rodents running around the place, we have conditions that is not conducive even for a pet. We're not going to attain those. And I think we have a government that is insensitive to our Barbadian children. And one day, a time will come where parents will have to make that decision. You're not voting because you like a government or you like a candidate. You voted for your children. Whether you like the Democratic Labour Party or not, we will still stand up for you and for your children because they deserve better. I do not want to go to any school and see any poor conditions within the school system where children have to learn. When I visit school, I want to see children in a very healthy, conducive environment where they are happy and willing and ready to learn, where teachers are in a mindset. The mental health of teachers are very important as well. How can you have teachers in such an environment? I'm not sure if the Ministry of Education have rodents running around, or the minister's office have rodents running around. How would you feel to be in those conditions working, Mr. Minister, Miss Prime Minister? How would you feel if you have to go into your office and see rodents running around? These are the conditions that our children are enduring every single day. And this is one of the reasons that parents sometimes have to leave work and come to deal with those matters. And this is why the Democratic Labour Party do not take these matters very lightly. They are very serious issues. And if we expect our children to do better, we need to do better as adults. One of the other concerns that I wanted to add, since 2018 to 2025, we have seen a drastic decrease of the performance of our students. And it tells us something about this government. This government is not only failing in education, they're failing in agriculture, they're failing in health, they're failing in tourism, in energy, in every sector. I think the only part of this government that is have some kind of success, is traveling, and the little
Yeah.
truck that I see running around the place. What do you call it? Regathering.
Yeah.
And what we've noticed as well, when regathering started, they had more trucks. Now I'm only seeing one,
One or two.
and about 2 people and a few
Yeah, I had
chickens
a
and a
bunch of
few things
miserable.
following them. The reality is that this government need to take the people's business seriously. When it comes to education, we cannot play games with the future of our children, because these are the same children that will take care of us when we get to a certain age. So I believe that the government need to inform the Barbadian populace as to what is happening with education transformation. We have spent millions on that. We need to know what is happening in terms of the 11 plus, because you told us 2028. I don't know if we'll be, God forbid, we will still, hopefully, this government will no longer be around, because what we have seen with this government is that it is not people centered.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that, and I will continue to reiterate that it is not people centered, because when you enter a classroom or you enter a school environment, this government is really concerned about how good we look. And the reality is that our students continue to fail because the kinds of intervention is not there for them. And because we have poor leadership, you will see the ripple effects of that. So you have a prime minister that was really not interested in education the way that they should. And we're seeing that, manifesting itself in various ways. Having five different ministers of education speaks volume that the leadership is failing. And so the reality is that we need the data. And I believe that the ministry tend to hold on to the data. We need to know exactly what is happening in terms of the various areas our students are not progressing in, because we need to understand what do we need to do, what kinds of intervention. It's not going to be literacy only. It's not going to be a national literacy program only. There's so much more that needs to be done, and it has to be done in a very holistic manner. You can't do those literacy programs if your teachers do not have the adequate facilities within the classrooms. We are spending too much money on gallivanting and regathering and not taking care of the simple things, which is to educate our children holistically.
All right, we're going to move on to the middle class and small business. The middle class is disappearing. Small businesses are collapsing. The backbone of Barbados' economy is hollowed out by poor policy and neglect. How do we stop this collapse? What steps are being ignored by the government that should save families and livelihoods? David.
How do we save the middle class? It's not difficult,
Mm-hmm.
I was trained in business, and I understand the importance of making sure that as long as there's the financial side dries up, as long as there's no money flowing through the society, as long as people are struggling, the business class, as we said earlier, will struggle and will continue to struggle, because the fact is that there needs to be a trickle-down effect where the economy will not function well when the people don't have money. And that's the reality. People broke. People ain't got the money to spend. So really, how are the businesses going to survive?
And I know you've done some work with entrepreneurship among young people.
Mhm.
Is entrepreneurship something that you would encourage now in this economic climate?
I would encourage entrepreneurship in any economic climate. The reality is that the question is this government friendly to entrepreneurs? You understand? You can't even register a bit. I wanted to register a business a couple of years back, and to even get it registered online, it was having difficulty. What I find with this government is that there's so many issues, so much difficulty getting simple things done. So for persons to want to get into business, and then you have so many hoops to jump through, it's not encouraging. It's easy to say, well, look, young people get into business and do things, but just to simply register a business name, you got to jump through hoops. It seems to me as if the more things progress in this country, the more they remain the same.
I go back.
And I'll go back because all right now, even to register a car in Barbados now is issues. There seem to be some serious issues with licensing authority. Just one of the government agencies. If you got a business and you say you want to set up put a food truck on the road, you bring it in from overseas and you want to get it registered, you will have difficulty because right now there seems to be a problem with the licensing authority. So that by itself is going to slow you down. So as much as you want to get into business, you want to do business, there's so much going on behind the scenes that will hamper you. That getting into business is not a friendly exercise anymore.
Corporate affairs, they have gone digital, as you said. So even when you try to do the applications online, many persons still have to end up going to the actual building to conduct their business. You said they wait long. Usually an application should take 2 to 3 weeks. But now you have to wait sometimes up to 8 weeks to get your application processed. Now, I want you to talk about the process and the experience at the bank trying to get a loan as an entrepreneur, a startup business.
Barbadians must be aware of the banking. There's a lot of new banking regulations. It is even more difficult to walk into the bank with cash, right? There's so much red tape. So when you leave corporate affairs, whole set of red tape. You go to licensing authority or register your food van, a whole set of difficulties. That may not even be red tape. It's just that things just don't work. And then you're going to the bank and you're into a system where now you're being asked to bring these lot of different IDs and you got to bring guarantees and you got to write to
3 years financial statement and you're now starting.
So what I'm saying is that it is the entrepreneurial environment in Barbados is very unfriendly. It's very unfriendly, and I had some discussions. I had a conversation with a business person, and he was expressing his disgust at the kind of hassle he had. He had a van and he had a ladder on top of his van, and he was harassed by law enforcement to get a C plate on his van. Right? So even there's so much going on in regards to setting up business in Barbados. There's so much happening. It confuses people. It creates annoyances. And then there's a comparison that there are some person driving around with their vans full of goods and they're having regular plates. And then they're asking, well, how come they can drive around with their vans full of goods with a regular plate? And the average poor man trying to set up something got to go through all this harassment. What I'm saying is that we need to make Barbados more friendly, more business friendly, where persons feel comfortable setting up a business, whatever the business is, and not feel as if they are being unduly harassed in comparison to other ethnic groups in the island, because that's what's happening in Barbados right now. So the reality is that I had plans on setting up that particular entity. I shelved the plan because some of us just don't like to be harassed.
All right, Dawn Marie, why is support for entrepreneurs absent in Barbados?
support for entrepreneurs is absent in Barbados because really entrepreneurship is really a source of economic empowerment. And with that economic empowerment comes a certain element of freedom. So you and I are both from the same generation. We were the generation that was supposed to have a graduate in every household, and we often believe that being that graduate in the household meant for us, better jobs, I guess greater job security, and hopefully in time more stability. Unfortunately, that vision collapsed, and I would say that this government has allowed it to die because whereas entrepreneurship was a choice in the past, it is seen now as one of the only options to make some money, or at least to at least not to have to be on the conveyor belt of having to go to a 9 to 5 where you are at someone's mercy. God forbid your boss is some person that dislikes you, and then the workplace becomes a place of horror and it becomes a place of stress. And I've heard some of our young people speaking about some of the jobs that they have to go to and recognizing that it is so much easier for them to buy items and try to resell and start their online stores. And I don't know if people have seen the surge of online stores, and everybody is selling something in Barbados now. And a point that I wanted to make, because it is something that ties right back into the economy. Everything that we have discussed tonight ties back into the economy and the functioning of that economy. And I wondered, particularly with respect to the post of the central bank governor. I remember as a girl coming up, I don't want to say feared the post of central bank governor, or, was scared to hear that person speak. But I always felt that the central bank governor was one that held our fate in their hands. You look forward to hearing from the central bank governor more than the prime minister, because we often felt that that person was versed in economic affairs and that person knew the true standing of the country. And what we see now, I think, in the position of central bank governor, we hear a lot of stuff. I have heard so much from this present central bank governor. And I often remember the governor that held position 2009 to 2017. He spoke seldom, but when he did, it was impactful. It was something that left you with an air of confidence. It was something that left you with an air of certainty. It was believable. You felt it was truthful. You felt that the position of central bank governor was one of integrity. However, we see our present central bank governor speaking a lot and telling us a lot about economic growth and everything else. And for some reason, it leaves a lot to be desired, because we are speaking about issues that often speak to a decline in economic activity, a decline in production. Young people are entrepreneurial. Yes, people do have businesses, but they aren't really contributing in the sense that they don't pay the NIS. They don't have enough money to, regulate their businesses. They don't have enough money to register the businesses. It's more of a hustle. So we now have more of a hustle economy right now driving the country, and that's something that's not really being accounted for. But I digress. What I am trying to say is that if we are sitting here tonight and we are pointing out the fact that Bajans are struggling, but the reports of the economy continue to speak of progress, one has to question where the basis and the information of these reports are derived. Something that really bothered me at the heart of it, and each of us pointed to it. Politics of popularity. Everything is for a photo op. Everything is to portray an image of all being well in this country. And the prime minister even cemented it, that what she is hearing on the talk show isn't seeming like the Barbados that she knows, etc., etc. I felt quite, the word that I want to use is quite strong, but I felt quite bewildered to see a post about the day in the life of the central bank governor.
He's a celebrity.
What is the post now? If all people seem to be concerned with is, the person behind the post. And don't get me wrong, it's okay to want to be liked, and it's okay to want to seek the fame that you probably never had before you became, a person so esteemed in our society. But what I find to be most disturbing is that some people may look past the fact that, perhaps maybe things aren't as they should, but hey, the governor likes to do XYZ. The average Bajan isn't concerned about what the central bank governor likes to do in his downtime or what he does during the day. We are concerned about the reports that are actually reflecting the state of this country. And I am so sorry. I cannot sit back and hear unemployment is at its lowest. This sector is thriving. This is doing well. Agriculture is up. How? So I really would like Bajans to look beyond the facade. I want Bajans in the next general election to look beyond the portrayal of all being well, to look beyond these individuals who seem to have missed out on their popularity in their teens and their early adulthood, and who are now using positions of, I would say positions of power, to be fair. Positions of power and positions that people valued in the past. I think a lot of our public offices and these positions have been reduced to the playthings of, individuals who seem not to know what it means to be known or to be liked. Or it is sad, but I say that to say, let us get back to what we were accustomed to.
Good governance.
And what we were accustomed to in the past was a separation of powers in terms of who did what and when was done, and not this talking down or talking at people, but a real reflection of the representation that we desire, and less of the social media marketing. And I think to even pay a media team to follow you the entire day, so let us see your life. How much is that videographer being paid? Like, to be perfectly honest, Felicia hinted to the communication specialist and whatnot. We asked on past occasions for an accounting of the consultants. We don't know how much the consultants are being paid. It's not in the budget. There are communication specialists across every ministry. How much would that person have been paid to follow the central bank governor the entire day, to watch him play road tennis and to drink a coffee and to be at his house before 9 a.m. Like, they get overtime for that too, because this all comes out to the public purse. Do you understand where I'm coming from? So I feel as if to even ask these questions, knowing that there are some mothers right now with children that can't afford a pack of Pampers. No one really wants to know about the day in the life of the central bank governor when some of your people are starving. So it frustrates me to know that the former governor, 2009 to 2018, was so esteemed and so diplomatic and so well spoken and so commanding in his duties, that I myself thought that the central bank governor was even more important than the governor general itself. And for a young lady who only traveled to the United Kingdom in 2010, I thought he was more important than the Queen, in my country. But we are reducing these public offices to nothing, and I really do believe that this BLP government needs to move beyond the optics and come to Barbadians with the real issues.
All right, we have run out of time. We have come to the end of our show. Thank you, panelists, for joining me tonight. But we have some notices. But first, I just want to express my sincere condolences to the family of Mr. Tyrone Green from the St. Peter branch, from us at the Democratic Labour Party.
So that's the way to do it.
The Young Democrats at the Democratic Labour Party will be hosting a series of events this week, starting from Friday until Sunday. So on Friday, the 7th of November, from 7 p.m., we have Tech Charge Youth Line. And this event is at Savvy on the Bay Street, St. Michael. Then on Saturday, November the 8th, we have the National Youth Rally. Youth already standing on business. And this starts at 5 p.m. Then on Sunday, the 9th of November, from 1 p.m., we have the National Youth Forum, Youth in Action. So I just want to ask the viewers and the public of Barbados to join us this week at Savvy on the Bay with the youth arm of the Democratic Labour Party. So tonight we have seen the full picture: families struggling, food insecurity, rising bills, schools under pressure, businesses failing. This is not chance, this is mismanagement. Barbadians deserve transparency, solutions, and accountability. They deserve leadership that listens and acts, not photo ops, excuses, or empty promises. DLP offers real solutions: price monitoring, local production, infrastructure repair, renewable energy, and emergency support. When labor leads, Bajans bleed. Tonight, we showed how, and we will not remain silent. I'm Malissa Howard. Stay informed, stay strong, and keep holding the government accountable. Good night, and thank you for joining us. See you on.
Sits and moving, one DLP. Sits and moving, sits and moving, sits and moving, sits and moving, one DLP. Sits and moving, sits and moving. Yellow is the code, determination in mode. Young them's rise up, we carrying the load. Future in we hands, Barbados we see. Sits and moving, jump on the DLP. Sits and moving, there we push the bus. One DLP, moving on with us. Together as one, we can take the fight. Sits and moving, the future bright. Follow it and not your eyes on the prize. No time to waste, energy strong. We setting the pace from the block to the hill, from the coast to the town. One DLP, we can hold it down. Sits and moving, let we push the bus. One DLP, moving on with us. Together as one, we can take the fight. Sits and moving, the future bright. New ideas, fresh minds, we bringing the flame. Barbados future, we changing the game. Every street, every parish, everybody see. Young them's leading, we claiming victory. Yeah, sit in the bus, sit in the hall. Together we rise, we answer the call. From east to west, let the people know. One DLP, we ready to go. Sits and moving, let we push the bus. One DLP, moving on with us. Together as one, we can take the fight. Sits and moving, the future bright. Oh, we are not there. Who got the energy? Who we riding? DLP bus. Future clear, Barbados strong. One DLP, we all be on. Sits and moving, let the people see. Give us on the road, full speed we be. No stopping now, we answer the call. One DLP, one family standing tall. Sits and moving, sits and moving, sits and moving. One DLP, sits and moving, sits and moving, sits and moving, sits and moving. Young them's pushing, sits and moving, sits and moving.
Lift your hands, Barbados. It's a new season, a new day. Together we rise, one people, one hope, one DLP.
We've been through trials, we've been through pain, but hope is rising like the morning rain. Voices of the people, strong and true. A brighter tomorrow is waiting for you. Honest voices, standing tall, valiant The people say a brand new dawn begins today. One family call, one Barbados, a place for all. Hope is rising, the vision clear. God bless this land we all hold dear. From north to south, east to west, we stand together, giving our best for justice and fairness. We answer the call. One DLP means hope for all. Honest voices, standing tall, balanced justice, one and all. Hand in hand, we'll find the way. A brighter dawn begins today. One family call, one Barbados, a place for all. Hope is rising, the vision clear. God bless this land we all hold dear. One vision, one people, together we rise, with faith in our hearts and hope in our eyes. Stronger united, no voice too small. One DLP, one Barbados for all. Called DLP, the people's choice. Hear the power in every voice. Hope is rising, the vision clear. A blessed Barbados starts right here. One DLP, one family call, one Barbados, a place for all. Hope is rising, the vision clear. God bless this land we all hold dear. Oh, people, one DLP, one family call, one Barbados, a place for all. Hope is rising, the vision clear. God bless this land. We all, forever strong.
How you getting this? Yeah. We all in this with Ralphie. We all in this with Ralphie. Yeah. One vision, one people, one destiny. We all in this with Ralphie. We all in this with Ralphie. Yeah. Yeah. We all in this with Ralphie. Yeah. Yeah. He crossed the floor, not for fame or glory. He crossed the floor to rewrite the story. The people vex, the country tight. Ralphie step up to set things right. From Christchurch East to St. Lucie, everybody know he stand for we. He watched them lost, line by line. He said follow the law, not the head lady. We all in this with Ralphie. We all in this with Ralphie. Yeah. We all in this with Ralphie. Yeah. One vision, one people, one destiny. We all in this with Ralphie. He crossed the floor to unite the country. So everybody sing in harmony. We all in this with Ralphie. Yes, we all in this with Ralphie. Hey, hey. Yes, we all in this with Ralphie. Hey, hey, hey. He said to the house, how you getting this? Watching the chaos, parliament in a twist. One member while another talk too fast. Ralphie step in makes sense last. The people laugh, they clap, they grin. Cause Ralphie sharp, he know how to win. The law and logic, he keep them tight. He bring order to the parliament fight. Hey! R-A-L-P-H-I-E. We all in this with Ralphie. R-A-L-P-H-I-E. Stand up tall for unity. Hey! He tell the PM you head the cabinet, not the state. So respect the law before it's too late. The legal business done on the floor, not in your mind behind closed door. He cool, collected, full of class. He use the facts and bust up, she bubble fast. He shaving down falsehood, clean and neat. Ralphie drop logic on every seat. Tourism built it, build now this new move. Free movement by imagination to prove no legislation to pass immigration gate. Yet you telling visitors come, citizens wait. Ralphie say hold on, let's get it straight. Law before limelight, check him and take. He watching close, see people clap, cause Ralphie catching every trap. We all in this with Ralphie. We all in this with Ralphie. We all in this with Ralphie. One vision, one people, one destiny. We all in this with Ralphie. He crossed the floor to unite the country. Now everybody sing in harmony. We all in this with Ralphie. Yes, we all in this with Ralphie. We all in this with Ralphie. Yes, we all in this with Ralphie. We all in this with Ralphie. Yes, we all in this with Ralphie. Hey, hey, hey. We all in this with Ralphie. 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 Hey, hey, hey. When the bells start twist and spin, Ralphie stepping again. When imagination start run this stage, Ralphie pull it straight. Are you getting this? We all in this with Ralphie.